Integrity. Wealth must be built justly, without exploiting the poor. There is a type of wealth that shines on the outside but rots on the inside. You have seen it happen, the entrepreneur who grew too fast, who stepped on those in need to get where they got, who built an empire on practices he himself knows are not right. For a while, it seems to work out. For a while, the money comes in. The status appears. The life displayed on social media impresses. But Proverbs 13:11 already warned with disconcerting clarity. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. God's chosen one does not build wealth on dishonest shortcuts, builds it on foundations that time cannot destroy, and integrity is exactly that kind of foundation. Invisible to the eye, but felt in everything. The word of God in Proverbs 22:16 is direct and unfiltered. Whoever oppresses the poor to increase his own wealth or gives to the rich will only come to poverty. This is not only a spiritual principle, it is an economic law disguised as ancient wisdom. Businesses built on exploitation have an expiration date. Brands that deceive consumers go bankrupt. Companies that treat their employees poorly lose their best talent and weaken from within before collapsing from without. Christian faith understands that sustainable prosperity and integrity are not opposing concepts. They are inseparable partners. A real and powerful example of this is the story of Patagonia. Founded by Eve, he built a billion-dollar business by refusing practices that harmed the environment and surrounding communities. Integrity as strategy, values as competitive advantage. Now, a practical point many people ignore. Integrity in business begins long before the first commercial transaction. It begins in the small, everyday decisions that no one is watching. In honoring a deadline even when inconvenient. In returning incorrect change even when no one would notice. In delivering quality even when the client has no way to verify it. Proverbs 11:1 says that a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is His delight. And God's purpose for your financial life manifests with much more fluidity when your reputation is your most valuable asset. A concrete exercise here. Evaluate today the 3 main financial relationships in your life with clients, suppliers, or employers, and honestly ask whether you are delivering what you promised in the way you promised. That internal honesty is worth more than any marketing strategy. Spiritual growth and financial growth have a common enemy: haste. The haste that makes you compromise quality, the haste that makes you close your eyes to a questionable practice because the result seems to justify the means, the haste that turns divine calling into a directionless race. Jesus Christ's word of life said in Luke 16:10, something that should be the motto of every Christian entrepreneur. One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much. Faithfulness in little is integrity day by day. It is the training that prepares a person to manage abundance without getting lost in it, because God is speaking a truth that the market confirms. Businesses that last generations are those built on trust. And trust can only be built one way, with consistent integrity, even when it is hard, even when no one is watching, and when integrity meets strategic planning. Planning acquiring knowledge, and having strategic planning increases returns. There is a scene that repeats itself every new year with impressive consistency. Millions of people make lists of goals, stick them on a post-it on the fridge, get excited for 2 weeks, and then return to exactly the same place they were before. And you know what the problem is? Not lack of willpower. It is lack of real planning, because there is an enormous difference between having a dream and having a plan. And Proverbs 21:5 knew this millennia ago. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. God's chosen one does not act on impulse, acts on planning, not because they are cold or calculating, but because they understand that God's purpose for their financial life deserves more than fleeting enthusiasm. It deserves strategy. It deserves method. It deserves commitment to the process. The Word of God in Proverbs 24:3-4 says that by wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. 3 words in that verse deserve special attention: wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. These are 3 different layers of preparation. Wisdom is knowing what to do. Understanding is knowing why to do it. Knowledge is knowing how to do it. And most people jump straight to the how without going through the what and the why. And that is exactly why many financial plans collapse at the first difficulty. A practical and concrete example. If you want to invest, do not start by choosing stocks or funds. Start by reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki and The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason are starting points that transform anyone's relationship with money and cost less than 50 reais each. Spiritual growth has everything to do with planning because both require the same thing: long-term vision. No elite athlete trains thinking only about the next day. They train thinking about the competition months away. In the same way, the divine calling for prosperity does not manifest in decisions made in the emotion of the moment, but in habits built with consistency over time. A basic and powerful financial plan begins with 3 simple steps. First, write down everything that comes in and everything that goes out for 30 days without judgment, just observation. Second, identify the 3 biggest financial leaks in your life. Those expenses you barely notice, but that added together are significant. Third, define a specific financial goal with a real deadline. Not "I want to save more," but "I want to have 3,000 reais saved by December." Specificity is what transforms intention into result. God's message through Solomon was never opposed to knowledge. On the contrary, the entire book of Proverbs is a celebration of wisdom applied to practical life. And the gospel of Jesus Christ is full of parables about administration, investment, and multiplication. The parable of the talents in Matthew 25 is a complete treatise on financial management disguised as a simple story. The servant who received 5 talents and multiplied them did not wait for divine instruction at every step. He planned, acted, and delivered results. That is Christian faith in action, not the paralyzed faith that waits for everything to fall from heaven, but the active faith that plans, studies, executes, and trusts that God is speaking through the opportunities that appear for those who are prepared, because preparation and opportunity together create something the world calls luck, but that God's chosen one recognizes as providence. And when this planning meets the wisdom of saving intelligently, just measure saving intelligently, avoiding cheap that costs more. There is a financial trap so common that almost everyone has fallen into it at least once. That irresistible promotion on a product that breaks in 3 months. That lower cost service that generates a problem costing double to fix. That financial decision that seemed economical but, adding up hidden costs, ended up being the most expensive option. Proverbs 17:16 asks, "Why should a fool have money in his hand to buy wisdom when he has no sense?" God's chosen one understands that saving intelligently is not just spending less. It is spending better. It is developing the discernment to recognize real value behind a price and not be seduced by the illusion of a discount. Proverbs. Las 9:20 de la noche. 6. Precious treasure and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it. Treasure and oil represented strategic reserve, the modern equivalent of a solid emergency fund and an investment fund. The difference between the wise man and the fool is not in the amount of money each received, it is in what each did with what they had. A concrete example, Warren Buffett, considered the greatest investor of all time. He's famous for living in the same modest house he bought in 1958, eating at McDonald's regularly, and avoiding ostentatious spending. While his net worth exceeds $100 billion, he understood that real wealth is not what you spend, it is what you keep and multiply. Now, some practical exercises that transform the concept of just measure into a real and lasting habit. First, adopt the 72-hour rule for non-essential purchases. Before buying anything, wait 72 hours. If after that time you still want it and it makes financial sense, buy it. If the desire passed, it was impulse. An impulse is the greatest enemy of financial spiritual growth. Second, learn to calculate the cost per use of each purchase. A 200 real sneaker that lasts 3 years costs far less per day than a 50 real one that falls apart in 2 months. Third, separate your finances into 3 simple categories: needs, investments, and desires. Define a maximum percentage for each before receiving any amount. This simple structure is more powerful than any complicated spreadsheet. God's purpose for your financial life is not one of scarcity. It is one of abundance managed with wisdom. And Christian faith never preached that money is evil. It preached that disordered love of money is what destroys. Jesus Christ spoke more about money than about any other topic in the Gospels, not because money is the center of spiritual life, but because he knew that the way a person handles resources reveals the state of the heart. The most subtle spiritual warfare in the believer's financial life is not the temptation to steal or deceive. It is the temptation to spend today what should be sown tomorrow, to consume the seed instead of planting it. And when God's chosen one learns to plant with consistency, to save with intelligence, and to trust that hope in God is not passivity, but active partnership with the Creator, then money begins to flow not as an isolated miracle, but as the natural consequence of eternal principles, being applied with faithfulness and courage day after day. You made it this far, and that alone proves something about you. It proves you are not satisfied with shallow answers. You don't accept the first pretty promise or trade real wisdom for easy entertainment. You stayed. You listened. And now you carry something most people will never have. Not because it is inaccessible, but because they never had the willingness to seek it. For Principal Solomon, the wealthiest man in biblical history, used to build prosperity, hard work with purpose, integrity as foundation, planning as strategy, and just measure as everyday wisdom. God's chosen one does not need a magic formula. They need eternal principles applied with real consistency, and you have just received exactly that. But now comes the part that separates those who transform knowledge into life from those who transform knowledge into yet another video watched and forgotten. So let these questions truly land. Which of the 4 principles is most absent in your financial life right now? Have you been working with passion and purpose, or are you merely fulfilling an obligation? Is your wealth being built on real integrity, or are there practices you know deep down need to change? Do you have a concrete financial plan with specific goals and real deadlines? Or are you still living by improvisation? Are you saving intelligently? Or do you keep falling into the trap of cheap that costs more? These questions were not made to shame you. They were made to wake you up, because God is speaking through them. And your honest answer is worth more than any fleeting motivation. Spiritual growth and financial growth have the same fuel. Consistent action fed by real faith. The hope in God that Proverbs celebrates is not the hope of one who folds their arms and waits for a miracle to fall from the sky. It is the hope of one who plants faithfully and trusts in the harvest that comes. So here is the concrete challenge for this week. Choose just one of the 4 principles that touched you most today and implement one specific action related to it this very week. Just one. Because real transformation does not begin with total revolution. It begins with one honest step in the right direction. It might be reserving 30 minutes a day to deepen a skill you love. It might be reviewing a contract or a commercial practice with eyes of integrity. It might be creating your first real financial spreadsheet. It might be calculating the cost per use before your next purchase. One step. This week. No excuses. And if this message touched something real inside you, if you felt that the Word of God arrived in a different way today through this Christian channel, then do one thing now. Write in the comments which of the 4 principles you will apply first. Your public declaration has power. It creates commitment. It inspires those reading alongside you. Share this content with someone you know needs to hear it. That friend who is struggling financially, that family member who deserves more than surviving month to month, that person who still believes that prosperity is luck, when in reality it is principle. And subscribe to this channel now. Activate the notification bell, because week after week this space exists for one thing only: to remind you that the gospel of Jesus Christ is complete. It takes care of your soul and your bank account, because God's chosen one was made to prosper in everything. In everything. Indeed,